Welcome to the Organic Wine Podcast. I'm Adam Huss, coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Thanks so much for listening. The sponsor for this episode is Centralis Wine. Centralis is an ecological winery that I started to protect or benefit the environment and my community with every business and winemaking decision. I envision a wine world in which humans are the students and servants of the non-human world, regenerating and protecting the vitality of ecosystems and promoting the diversity of life through wines that uniquely and deliciously reflect local abundance. Centralis wines feature foraged prickly pears, urban perennial polyculture wine garden produced grapes, gleanings from urban fruit trees, dry farmed century-old vines, and organic and biodynamic viticulture. If this sounds interesting to you, please join our email list or wine club and learn more at centraliswine.com. That's CENTRALAS wine.com. My guest for this episode is Michael Juergens. He's the best-selling author of Drinking and Knowing Things. He's a certified sommelier with the Guild of Master Sommeliers, a certified specialist of wine, and a Master of Wine candidate with the Institute of Masters of Wine. His final blind tasting test is this month, so good luck, Michael. He runs the wildly popular Drinking and Knowing Things wine blog, which has been adapted now into 3 books. He owns the award-winning SoCal Rum company, which was recently awarded the highest point score in history for any Silver Rum. Michael was a professor at UC Irvine until recently, and he spends his very little free time doing blind tasting and extreme sports. And last, but absolutely not least, he is the founder of the Bhutan Wine Company and is leading the development of the wine industry in this magical Himalayan country for its first time in history. This is why I wanted to talk to Michael, because his journey led him to Bhutan to plant its first ever vineyards. I found out about Bhutan and started looking into some of the truly unique and stunning aspects of its culture. That's part of the power of wine, to make these connections. If you haven't heard about the 7 pillars of gross national happiness, or didn't know that Bhutan is the only carbon negative nation in the world, or that it's on a path to be the first 100% organic nation in the world, and more, then you're going to have as much fun with this interview as I did. Enjoy. Michael, welcome. Thanks so much for doing this. It's a real pleasure to talk to you.
It's going to be great, man. I'm looking forward to it.
There are so many things that you do, which I will have just introduced you. And and since this is a wine podcast, I think my first question is, I've noticed as I've been moved into my later 40s that drinking wine does not equate with the level of energy that you seem to display in your life. What is your secret? Like, how are you optimizing your time and energy and still drinking wine and basically preparing for, I think you're still preparing for your blind tasting, right?
Yep. Yeah. July 26th through 28th. Not that I'm counting.
Fantastic. All right. Good luck, man.
Thanks.
Wish you the best of that. But seriously, that means you're drinking a lot. I'm sure you can spit, but still, how are you doing this? How are you able to maintain the energy for all the things you have going on in your life while also maintaining an active wine life?
It's a very high reliance on crystal methamphetamine.
I knew it. I knew it. You are from Southern California.
I joke. But I get asked that question a lot. Now, I don't know that I have an awesome answer for it, but what I will tell you is that I went through a super, super gnarly divorce that lasted literally 13 years. I was married for 11 years, but the divorce lasted 13 years. Welcome to California family court. And through that process, I was a single dad, but also a partner in a large, global consulting firm. And so I developed all these coping mechanisms just that would allow me to try to deal with little kids in different schools and bath time and homework and also managing a professional career. And I did that for a decade. And then when the kids aged out, I had those routines and I had those things in place, and it allowed me, all of a sudden I had tons of capacity to pursue things that I personally was interested in. But it wasn't like I planned it that way. It was like I fell into it, through the most, emotionally taxing process ever. I don't recommend it, by the way, but it's working out great now.
Yeah.
But if you want to take 13 years of your life and just throw it in the shitter, and then,
I mean, I always assume, and I'm guessing it's true, that you probably just, you're genetically, or you're in your DNA is probably a high level of energy. You were probably always that young person as well, where you were just sort of charging it. Is that
Yeah, I
true?
mean
Or
that's kind of been who I am since I was a kid, like just Pete Rose approach to life, just charge the bases, dive in, go 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 go, and that's what keeps me energized. Actually, what happens is when I slow down, I stagnate. It sucks, so I just keep the pedal
yep,
pressed down all the time.
nice. Do you have any, like, if you've had a heavy night of drinking, do you have any tips or biohacks that you've come up with to recover quickly and make it through the next day of, a packed schedule?
I mean, you can go out with the boys, but you better get up with the men if you want to be important. It's more like the mental state. But here's
Yeah.
like some things that I do. Um, Water is, to me, I think, the best um, antidote for tomorrow. And it doesn't help if you drink it tomorrow. You got to drink it now while you're drinking. So one of the things I try to do, if I know I'm going to be consuming a lot of alcohol, is at the same time just be constantly drinking water. B12 is a great solution too. You get kind of depleted with that. But yeah, I mean, the bottom line is you got to pay the tax, right? Like if
Right.
if you're going to do a big night, there's going to be a tax tomorrow, and you can minimize the tax, but you can't eliminate it. So
Yeah.
you just
Yeah. I mean, the tax, the older you get, the tax might not just be tomorrow. It might be
no,
like
I'm familiar with
multi-day
that too.
tax.
Pros play hurt, right? Like
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you just gotta get it done. But
Um,
yeah, if by the way, if anyone comes up with a miracle cure for that, I'm the first. I'm willing to beta test anything, because you're right. As you get older, it just gets tougher and tougher and tougher. I mean, shit. I was at Pro Wine a few weeks ago, and I've tasted 250 wines by 2 p.m. and you're just like going, and now I have a dinner, and now I have an after party, and I'm 50. It's,
yeah. How often do you train? So you're a marathoner, extreme marathoner. Is that fair to say?
yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
I
So
would
what's your
say
training schedule like?
so. It kind of depends on what type of race I have coming up. So, when I did Antarctica, I did like a lot of cold training, and less
Yeah.
physical training, and then a lot of like running in like sand and mud to try to simulate snow. Um,
Oh yeah.
when the first time I ran in the Himalayas, I did like a lot of breath work, because I live at sea level, and so. Um, but I would say normally my training regime is a blend of cardio and kind of high impact work stuff, weight stuff. Not, I would say
Okay.
CrossFit adjacent. I don't know that I buy
Okay.
into 100% of all the philosophies of CrossFit, but that kind of idea of putting weight on and doing some impact stuff.
And
But
like,
I
I
I
mean,
try
is
to
this a
think slow.
daily thing? Are you like, is there a time every day where somebody's going to find you, like either at a gym or running or something like that? Or do
No,
you
and
take
I
days off?
and I
Okay.
think that's more a function of my lifestyle, that I don't have a routine. I'm traveling all the time,
Yeah,
and
I was going to ask.
yeah, like some nights I'm doing stuff until midnight because I've got events, and then some mornings I got to be up at 5 a.m. because I'm doing conference calls with Bhutan, or I'm in whatever time zone. So I don't have the luxury of a routine. So for me, it's just try to jam it in when I can, and sometimes I fail, and I try not to beat
Mm.
myself up about it when I do. It's like, okay, it's probably no
Yeah.
different than like, hey, we all try to eat kind of healthy, but a pizza is pretty damn good, and so all right, eat
Yeah.
the pizza, but then you got to pay the tax.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Have you had to eliminate things from your life? Like, I mean, I don't see a huge social media presence for you. Is that something you've just sort of cut out to save time?
I'm literally like, I try to just be engaged enough because I understand that it's a technology platform that's important for certain channels today, but
Yeah,
it's not something I'm going to spend a bunch of time on. I don't spend a lot of time like watching television. I don't, I've sort of eliminated things that are non-accretive for the most part. Now, all that being said, like I will say I do this thing where I run myself ragged, and then I need like a day or two of complete recharge where I just lay on the couch and watch television. um,
got it. Just like a
but
veggie.
I have like one of my really, my best friends is like a football fanatic, and so 18 weeks out of the year, Sunday is gone because he's watching games on multiple televisions all day long. And I'm like, dude, that's
Right.
1/7 of your life for 1/3 of the year. You're giving that, you're
Yeah.
just giving that away. Like I get, I don't get any benefit from that, but I appreciate that he does, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's right. Um, yeah. Okay. Cool. This is, giving me some pointers. I definitely need to do more with my life after reading your bio. So I'm taking notes. Um, you're a writer too. I mean, this is something that I think we also share. And you've published 5 books at this point.
Oh,
Did I get that right?
I think I published 11 actually.
11. Okay. Sorry.
That's a,
You've got to just,
I think so.
yeah.
I published 7 wine books, and I published 2 kind of fiction books, and then I published 2 like technical manuals. But it's under different, like all my personal stuff is under like a pseudonym, um,
Got it.
Michael Amon, which is my middle name. So that's the stuff I give a shit about. Like I could kind of care less about the technical, business stuff that I've written. The fun stuff is the wine stuff for sure.
You just happen to have an expertise in that other field. So might as well take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Is that, um, and one of those books is the compilation of the emails that you do for your website and email list, Drinking and Knowing Things.
Yeah, actually, I did
And that was a
volume 1 and
bestseller,
volume
right?
2 of that. So 2 of the books are just those compilations.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Have you read
When do you
those?
write?
I'm happy to send you a copy if you haven't.
I
They're
would love to. No, I would love to. I just read one, and I have a quibble with you, honestly. Not just the one that's on your website.
oh, the
You
Timorasso.
you base, yeah, you shit talk Norton.
Norton's fucking terrible.
I could blind taste you on some Norton that you would think was Cabernet or that you would think was vinifera. Honestly, I'm gonna have to find. I'm gonna surprise you. I'm gonna send you something, or the next time I see you, I will have bottles, and I will challenge you.
I am completely open to having my opinion changed, but my opinion is based on experience, and I am right now 100%. You know, my 100% of my Norton experiences have been dog shit.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but
No,
if there's a great one, fuck, I'm a wine guy, right? Let's go, man. Prove me wrong. I'm all in.
Terravox. You should check out Terravox. They're doing a lot of cool stuff in and what is the state? The state in the middle of the country, Missouri. Um, and they have won like double gold 2 years in a row with a Norton that I had to try. I did the vertical, and both were really beautiful. I mean, look, is it the best wine I've ever had in my life? No, but was it a really fantastic wine? Absolutely. It was really good. So I checked them out for sure. And I wonder, I mean, this is, leading into bigger things that I would love to discuss with you, but like, I wonder how much of that experience that you have and that so many people have is because these grapes haven't been taken seriously and haven't been showered with the kind of love and resources that vinifera has been showered with, and prime spots and prime winemaking techniques and everything else involved in that. And then of course, they don't show well because they're not playing on the same field as the vinifera. What do you
Well,
think
there's
about
there's
that?
no question that Burgundy had the benefit of 2,000 years of vinifera and then 300 years
Right.
of monks mapping every vine, right? So if somebody had done that with Norton in
Right.
Virginia, could it be something similar? Maybe. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. But
So
you're
I'm on a
right.
mission
Like,
to start that process. That's my mission, I think, really, with this podcast, is to get to really be to lay the groundwork for a truly American wine, that is not tied anymore to Europe. That isn't like it's American version of a French wine, that it's actually purely American wine. But that's like we'll all be dead by the time that happens, in a really beautiful way,
well,
I
and I
think.
mean that's kind of what I'm doing in
Potentially.
Bhutan. Like it's
Right.
going to take us 100 years to dial that in, just given the
Right.
diversity of microclimates and elevations and everything there. And I keep telling everybody, like, I'm doing this for my grandkids, not for me.
And so you went to Bhutan, so let's go there. So why vinifera? This is my first challenging question for you.
Well, so they have 0 indigenous grape varietals, right? So anything you're bringing
Okay.
in, anything that you're going to plant, you're going to bring in.
Right. Okay. That's a
So
yeah.
starting with that, and so then let's assume that you're bringing something into a place where there are a plethora of challenges, but opportunities galore. Um, in terms of just sort of optimizing the probability of success, you would want to bring in a grapes that had more history, more data, and also the ability to sell it, right? So, like, if I was walking through a Total Wine and I saw a Bhutanese Cabernet on the shelf, I would be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm trying that. Or a Bhutanese Chardonnay or whatever. If I saw a Bhutanese Norton or a Bhutanese Chambourcine or, Pickett, like, I'm probably much less interested in trying that. Now, all that being said, just there's some climate challenges there that we are planting some Traminette and Vidal there, because I
Oh,
want to play
okay.
around with it. Um,
Fantastic. Yeah.
but yeah, I think we're already spending everything we got trying to make an amazing wine. I don't want to layer on top of that also trying to figure out how to make Norton drinkable.
Right. Or to educate people about, like, okay, this is a grape you've never heard of, that's not globally recognized, and yet you need to try it.
Right.
And here's why, kind of thing. Which, not that yeah, I mean, I think that's what I'm trying to do, but it is a hard thing to do when you're trying to start a business from scratch that already has a bunch of challenges, I imagine.
Well, and the other thing too is, like, if there were random indigenous varietals there, like, for sure I would be playing around with that, because my whole goal is to capture, the essence of Bhutan and put it in a bottle so that people can enjoy that. And so if they had weird random stuff there, I would be tripling down on that, but there's not. You know,
Okay.
the Marco Polo never got there. Alexander the Great never
Right.
got there. The Roman army never got there. Like, nobody ever got there. So nobody ever bought grapes, and there wasn't indigenous stuff. So
Right.
the cool thing about that for me is, like, it's a blank slate. Like, I get
Yeah.
to decide what this looks like for the country. And yeah, I could be bringing in, Hondurabi Zuri, or, weird, super weird stuff. But I'm like, look, people know cab. They like cab. There's a ton of data about how to make good cab. Why bet the farm on something else? Play
Yeah.
the safe bet. And that's the businessman in me talking, not
Yeah.
the wine passionate, uber geeky guy talking.
Well, I have more questions along this line, but let's step back a minute, or let me ask you to step back a minute, and just talk about Bhutan in general. Like, I know you, like, when I hear you talk about it, when I've done my research to listen to you and other things, I actually hear your voice sort of change as you talk about it. It sounds like just a really special place. I wonder if you could sort of just describe it, paint a picture and any experiences that might capture that for people listening that you've
Yeah,
had.
and you're right. I have sometimes I almost get choked up about it. Like it's this truly just magnificent spot. And so for the listeners that don't know much about Bhutan, so it's this little kingdom that's tucked in between Tibet and Nepal and the Himalayas. But they have somehow managed to remain neutral. And
I've
all
never
of
been
the
colonized,
political
right?
bullshit that's been going on in that region for years, they have remained neutral, and they've kind of been able to be like the Switzerland of of the Himalayas, and
Yeah.
through that, they've done some amazing things. And I just have to give the company just ridiculous, or the country ridiculous credit for having the foresight to do some things like they don't measure gross domestic product. They measure gross national happiness. They said early on, it's more important for our citizens to be happy than to be rich. And so we're going to focus on that. And we're going to measure it, and we're going to make that our number one priority. And what an awesome way to live, right? Who wouldn't
Yeah.
rather be happy? Yeah, I know
I mean,
some.
isn't that
Go
right?
ahead.
Isn't money supposed? I mean, isn't GDP supposed to be a means to that end anyway? So why not measure the end? Like, is that a good way to look at it? Would you say?
Yeah, or another way to look at it, which I think is more the way that they look at it, is that having more shit doesn't necessarily make you happier. And
Right.
what you should do is find the things that make you happy and lean in on those. And that could be, being outdoors or being with family or being with community, or they have 7 pillars to their gross national happiness strategy. And each one of them is slightly different. There's like a social one and an environmental one, and um, but but yeah,
They're go. I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over
no,
you.
no, go
They're
ahead.
really great guides. I just encourage anybody listening to look those up because it is a revolutionary idea that they've embraced that on this national level for the entire country.
What,
It's really a beautiful thing.
what's funny is
And
was having dinner with these government officials, and one of the government officials is like a part-time monk. And so I'm super curious to get his take on stuff. And he was like, Mike, he goes, look, he goes, are we happier than anybody else? Like everyone says we're the happiest country on the planet. He goes, I don't know that that's true. We're people. Like, we have greed and envy and anger and all of these things. He goes, I don't know that I'm any happier than you are. But what I do know, and he goes, and I've been to America, and I've seen it. And he goes, but what I do know is that we've made it a priority to
mm,
try to be happier, to try to improve ourselves on the happiness vector. Whereas like America has made it a priority to improve themselves on the economic vector. And
mhm.
those are two different things. And we're at different spots. We might be behind you in both for all I know, but we're trying to be happier. And I'm like, that's great,
It's
dude. What an awesome way to live. I want to be happier. Shit.
yeah. It's a is it a predominantly Buddhist country? Is that
Yeah, it is. It is very much a Buddhist country.
yeah. And they also have some other cool national things like they're the first and only carbon negative country. Is that right?
Yeah, they're the only carbon negative country on the planet, which is dope. They actually have it written into their constitution that I think, and these numbers are not going to be precise, but they're directionally accurate. That I think it's 67% of the country will remain forested,
Wow.
that they will never develop more than whatever the balance is, 33%. And right now I think they're at about 73, so they can develop another 6% of their lands, but then no, everything else is remaining wilderness. And they're aspirationally on track to become the first 100% organic country in the world. So organic wine podcast, that's probably right in your power alley. They want everything grown in the country to be organic, which is, I mean, man, if they could pull that shit off, I mean, now
Yeah.
they're well ahead of everybody else on that front. And people come from all
Yeah.
over the world to study sustainable agriculture and organic, production of ag products in Bhutan. I mean,
Yeah. They're sort
they are
of,
the benchmark.
that's amazing. Yeah. That's really cool. And yes, it definitely did sort of trip my trigger for sure when I heard about that. But I heard about it through you, which is, I think, the powerful story that you get to tell, and one of the powerful things about wine, which is, really what's super cool about what you're doing. I I wonder if you could talk about what it's like, though, because of that. They must have some pretty like a lot of thought and a lot of care must go into a new project where you're trying to put in, acres of anything, right? Because they don't want you to clear forest and put in a vineyard or, whatever, what did you encounter that you had to consider, and, just some interesting things like that. And feel free to get, technical or detailed in any way.
No, I mean, I'm snickering over here because like I'm trying to figure out how to concisely respond to this question. But let me, because you cannot believe the amount of stuff that we had to do. But let
Wow.
me preface it by saying that that Bhutan has some interesting objectives as a country. Number one, they would love to export more higher value agricultural products. And there's fewer things that are higher value from an ag perspective than wine. Bhutan grows the best red rice in the world, but you're never going to get $200 a pound for red rice. They grow the best cardamom in the world. Same thing. And so wine allows them to do that. They also want to really focus on brand Bhutan. And I sound like I'm speaking for the country, and I'm definitely not. But this is my perspective on what they want to do.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so you've got, if you go to Whole Foods and you buy some cardamom, it doesn't say Bhutan on it. But if you go and buy a bottle of wine anywhere, it says exactly where it's from. And it's because the focus on environmentalism and sustainability, the idea of biodiversity is really strong with them. And so, to bring in the right crops that are virus free and disease free will increase biodiversity. So it kind of aligns with those aspects. From a social perspective, think about we're not worried about money, but we do want our people to have a good state of living. And so let's say you're a subsistence farmer, you've got 3 rice paddies and on terrace slopes. The fallow land between the terraces, you can't really grow much there. But you know what you could? Vinifera goes great on slopes. And so we can fill in some of the white space with this higher value crop. Everybody gets to participate in it. So it sort of checks a lot of the boxes. So the country is very motivated to try to figure out a way to make this work. That being said, ton of challenges and a ton of risks. And so fortunately for us, we've had this really collaborative relationship with the government where we want to do it, they want to do it. And it's been a question of like, okay, let's figure out how do we do this in the way that'll manage risk most effectively, and also, without taking 100 years to figure it out,
Right.
And so we've been walking this line with them, and it's, so far it's working out great. We haven't made wine
Cool.
yet, so we'll see.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, so can you give an example of, just some of the restrictions that, I mean, anything anecdotally that, I know that it sounds like you went through years of, or at least
Oh
quite a
no,
bit
years.
of
No, let's call it years because it was years. But I'll give you an example. You're bringing in vinifera, which is a foreign species.
Right.
And you are bringing it in from, outside of the environment. And so who knows what comes in with it. And so one of the things that they said is there was a lot of skepticism, first off, about whether vinifera would even flourish there. And I told them early on, like, no, the whole reason I'm doing this is because I am 100% convinced that vinifera will flourish here. So we had to prove that it would grow. And then secondly, we had to prove that it wouldn't threaten any of the rest of their agribusiness, vertical.
Right.
And so
You're not
we planted.
you're not bringing in the phylloxera to 18th, 19th century Europe.
I was less worried about phylloxera, but I was more worried about
No, I meant
weird
that
virus, right? That
right.
it's sort of relatively benign for vinifera, but it's death for red rice. Right. I plant two Cabernet vines, and next thing you know, the entire rice. So what we did was we worked with them, and we identified. We went to their agricultural research centers and we identified 6 vineyards, and we planted vineyards at their research centers and quarantined them and let the research center be heavily involved in the cultivation of those vines so that they could watch it, and they could also watch it in a controlled environment next to all of the other crops that they're researching at the same time. So literally, I was worried, oh man, if something happens, they're going to be burning the vineyards and kicking us out. But I was confident that it would work. And I was confident in the way that we sourced the vines and managed phytosanitary requirements that it would be effective, and it was. But it took us a couple years to prove that out.
Right. And was that meant you could only do a small test plot basically before you couldn't do any wider planting at that point?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, not each site's slightly different, but each of those initial 6 vineyards, or let's say anywhere between 1 to 3 acres.
Okay.
But at all different altitudes, from as low as, let's say, 2,500 feet to as high as 9,000 feet, and a lot of different microclimates. So
amazing. Yeah. And cool. All right. So yeah, that would be an interesting process. Does labor, I don't think, is a problem though, right? I mean, it's an agrarian.
Oh yeah, I mean, these guys are some of the most skilled organic farmers in the world. People go to Bhutan to learn from them. So, and they're cheap. The average agricultural laborer makes, I don't know, $9 a day.
Right.
So,
something, yeah.
You have this army of very skilled people. Now, that being said, they've never grown vinifera. So one of the significant challenges that I have had and continue to have is they're like, yeah, we want to maximize yields. We want to maximize ripeness. We want to maximize size. And I'm like, no, we don't. We want to make bitchin' wine. And all of that you just said doesn't necessarily apply to making the best wine possible. So that's been a constant educational debate. But I get it, for their entire existence, they've been like, oh, you got a fruit tree? Get more fruit, get bigger fruit, get juicier fruit, get riper fruit. And so
right.
That's where their mindset's at.
And skill wise, I think I heard you telling an anecdote about trying to teach people how to prune via Skype, and then that didn't go so well.
Oh, you've been doing some research on me. Yeah. So never grown vinifera, never grown grapes. I mean, grapes don't exist in Bhutan. And so, but they understand pruning. And as our vineyards were coming online, this global pandemic thing happened, and Bhutan went on full lockdown. They shut down the borders completely. And so we're sitting there going shit, we're trying to prune. And I have a very skilled viticulturalist. He's a professor at Cornell and wine consultant. And but he can't go there. And so we're like, okay, look, maybe we can film some videos of you trimming plants, and we were trying everything we could to show these guys how to do it. And then I hired another viticulturalist, a guy from France, to go live in Bhutan full time. And he was able to hit the ground in maybe April of this year, March or April. And so he got there, and first thing he did, of course, is tour all the vineyards. He's like, shit, they did it all wrong. So he re-pruned all of our vineyards, taught the guys like, we got to do it this way. Yeah, it was exciting.
No.
But this is my whole thing. Like, this is for our grandkids. This is going to take us a long time to dial this in.
Right.
But I mean, think
Yeah,
about
maybe.
how cool is this? Like the last time I think an entire wine industry in a country was created was in New Zealand in the 1800s. Like this just hasn't been done in 200 years. An opportunity to have like, here's this blank slate, figure it out for the next 1,000 years is like the coolest possible thing you could ever possibly do. Like, I love that you're doing shit in South Central. That's dope. But it's never going to be that, right?
Right.
We're never going to raise South Central, all the buildings and convert it to winemaking. Like it's
No.
a curiosity thing that's awesome and cool, but it's not going to sustain thousands of families for hundreds of years.
Right. That is really a very cool opportunity. I mean, it's unique, and it's fascinating how you sort of stumbled into that as well, right? I mean, you haven't how long has your total wine career been? I mean, when you just really when it's been this thing that you've been pursuing,
So I
not just
mean,
like a love or passive thing. Yeah.
yeah. So I started my love affair with wine about 30 years ago. The first 20 years, I was just that douchebag rolling around trying to be the guy with the coolest bottle and stuff. And then the last 10 years is when I've really tried to understand it, um, and embrace the fact that it's not understandable.
That's great. Yeah. And you say more about that. Like where are you where are
Well,
you
so
in that journey?
I think a lot of people that I see, they get excited about wine. Um, something flips the switch, and I actually firmly believe that there are a few things in our brain that we are neurologically wired for, because of 50,000 years of tribal living. I think running is one of those, and I think wine drinking is one of those. And what happens is somehow in your life something occurs that turns that switch to on, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta go run, or oh shit, I gotta go like drink some more wine. But in America particularly, when that switch flips on, it's like, oh, I need to go get 90-point stuff. I need to look at points. I need to drink big reds. The bigger, the better. Um, and so you kind of go down that road, and your journey goes from, I'm drinking, $10 cabs to, oh, this Mondavi, cab is $28, and it's a great wine. I really like that. And then, oh wow, people are telling me about Silver Oak and how cool Silver Oak is, and that's 60-70 bucks, or $80 now probably. That's a little out of my price range, but well, I'm going to stretch for that. And like, oh, I really really like this. Like, what's this Silver Oak Napa Valley cab that's 150? And you sort of do that progression, and in your head you are progressing and you're learning, but it's one dimensional. And
Right.
and that's what I did too for 20 fucking years. So like, I'm not throwing rocks at that at all. But I think at some point there, the sort of woke wino, if you will, realizes like, oh, this is a whole bigger thing. There's sweet wines, there's orange wines, there's rosé wines, there's white wines, there's fortified wines, there's stickies, there's, this is like a much broader genre. Maybe an analogy. I haven't rehearsed this answer, so I'm fumbling around trying to find the right words. But like, maybe an analogy is like, oh, I like steak. Oh, I had this great steak at Sizzler. Oh, I'm moving up to Morton's. I'm going to have a ribeye. And like, oh, wait, there's Wagyu, but it's all steak. And then you realize
Right.
like, oh shit, there's a whole bunch of other food out there that's also awesome. It's just different than steak.
Right.
And so I tripped into that, and And the more I unpeeled the onion, the deeper it got. And I'm an inherently curious guy. So I'm sort of like, whoa, wait a minute. You're telling me that Chianti shit is also, it's the same grape as Brunello? That's great. Oh, wait. It's also the same grape as Vino Nobile di Montepulciano? Oh my God. And by the way, they don't oak it as heavily in Montepulciano because they're using larger barrels and older barrels. And like, that's a little bit more approachable. And holy shit, wait, there's Morellino di Scansano, like that's more coastal, but it's the same grape. Like, wow, this is awesome. And all of that stuff is like,
Right.
it takes a like borderline autistic level of commitment and curiosity to try to unpack that shit. Cause the first guy's like, I drank the Chianti. It was pretty fucking good. I'm done. Not me.
Right. Right.
I'm still unpeeling, and it's fun
Gotcha.
for me.
Well, and that you brought up a bunch of stuff, but one of the things I'd love to get your take on is, this obsession with blind tasting at these high level certification things. So obviously you're in the midst of that, and I don't want to in any way deflate, your enthusiasm for trying to pass this test, but like, how could you blind taste the I understand how I understand how you can start blind tasting when you know that you're dealing with vinifera. But if you expand the category of wine beyond vinifera, which I think it should fairly include more than just vinifera and still be able to be called
I'll
wine,
bet you do,
then
you motherfucker. You and your Norton
see,
trying to
there you
sneak
go.
into an MW exam. No, I mean I get the question, and so I think what's interesting about the Master of Wine exam is and they keep impressing this upon us, that you're not a master of fine wine, you're a master of wine. You need to
Mhm.
understand the positioning of $7 white Zinfandel at the same way you need to understand the positioning of a Musny Grand Cru Pinot Noir. And
Mhm.
this is historically, it was, the blind tasting was more about what is it and where is it from. But now you have this massive global convergence where, you know, the new world producers are saying, oh, there's a sea of new world styles. I need to differentiate my product to try to sell it. So I'm going to make a more Burgundian Pinot Noir. And I cannot tell you how many like U.S. based producers I've heard use that term. Oh, we make a Burgundian Pinot Noir. Like so that's crazy to me. At the same time, in Burgundy, there's people going, oh, like the new world consumers in America with their Bitcoin, they want this oakier, richer style. So we're going to extract the shit out of this. We're going to let it sit on the skins a little bit more. We're going to there was this one guy in Burgundy that was doing 200% new French oak. He would age it for 12 months in a new French oak barrel and then move it to a different new French oak barrel for another
Oh
12
my
months.
God.
And I'm
Wow.
just like, dude, you're wrecking it. Like you're cooking the
Unbelievable.
Wagyu till it's well done. Like, don't do that shit.
Seriously. Until
But
it's just charcoal.
anyways, the point of all this is the convergence of this of wine globally makes it less relevant about what it is and where it's from. And so what the MW exam has done is it's kind of moved beyond that and more into like, what's the quality of it and why? Like, is this a
Mhm.
good wine or is this a bad wine? What's the market positioning of this wine? How would you sell this wine? Who would buy this wine? And so like they put a
Oh.
Lagrein from northern Italy on the exam a couple years ago. I failed another exam. I failed, by the way. Um, and and the question was not like what is this and where is it from, because I mean you could pick a Yugoslavian Merlot or whatever, no one's going to get it. And the question
Right.
was more about like, what do you think about this wine? Like, describe
Huh.
this wine. Like, is it a good wine? If so, why? Is it a bulk wine? If so, why? Like, where would you sell this wine? How would you sell it? Would you sell it? Is this a restaurant wine? Is this a food wine, or is this a fine wine that's destined for collectors and cellaring? Like, what is it? And I think
Interesting.
That's where at least the Institute of Masters of Wine is headed, and that's what we're being tested on. And by the way, that's frustrating as fuck because it's, there's a lot more variability in that than there was. Like, is this from Australia or not? Yes or no?
Right.
But I mean, truly, if you're going to hold yourself out in today's world as a quote unquote master, one of the few hundreds of people in the world who truly understand what you can about wine, no one can get it all. That's probably where we need to be focused. And I'm circling in a very roundabout way back to your original question. I think in that discussion, I think it's fair to include non-vinifera varietals.
Mm-hmm.
And truly, if you want to know about what's going on in wine, there's a lot of that shit going on in the US today. Hybrids, certainly.
Yeah.
Not just here, but globally.
Yeah, it's really, really starting to take off. I mean, it's definitely something I focus on, so I might have a skewed perspective on it. But yeah, it does seem like more and more. I think, especially. I mean, I just think as the vinifera gene pool, the further we get from the time those original clones were selected, the less they have adapted to the changes in our world that have occurred in the last couple hundred years. And the less, the weaker and more sickly they seem to look, and the more propped up they need to be with chemicals and things like that, depending on where they're grown. And unfortunately, a lot of people are trying to grow them in, places like the East Coast of the U.S., where just arguably they should never be planted because of the pressures and the amount of stuff you have to do to keep them alive. But you didn't hear that from me. No, actually, you did. But yeah, it is definitely something that's taken off. And I mean, that's kind of why I questioned you about Bhutan. It just seems like, that's, just where my head is, where I'd think about a place like that as maybe.
Well, so think about like the way that wine evolved, or let's back that up. The way that wine grapes evolved, it happened. Not to overuse a term, it happened organically. There were wild grapes growing, and one would get pollinated randomly from a grape a ways over, and the bird would happen to eat that grape and shit out the seed, and it just happened to land in a spot where it could take root. And some of it turned out awesome, and some of it turned out garbage. Gouet Blanc, was like the father of 21 international varietals, and it was random. It was nature. It was true sort of capitalistic. That's an interesting term. Like somehow there's capitalistic. Anarchy going on in the agricultural world. So that happened for literally tens of thousands of years. And we ended up with Cabernet and fucking Chardonnay and Gamay. And we ended up with all these great wines. And then somebody said, stop, that's it. These are the grapes. And the only things that you can, particularly in the US, the only things that you can sell and call wine are clones of that stuff.
Right.
And I give Jim Clenendon the maddest fucking props in the world because when he was like, no, fuck this. We're gonna create this environment up in Santa Barbara where we're gonna encourage this development of new varietals in a totally organic and haphazard way. And knowing full well that if it happened, he couldn't sell the fucking wine as wine because it's not an allowable thing. But I mean, just imagine that. If you said, all right, evolution's over. No humans can mate anymore. We just start cloning the last generation of humans, and we'll just do more of that.
Reached our perfection. Right.
Yeah, we made it. We're done. And I'm like, that is not the right answer. However, back to your question about Bhutan, I don't have indigenous varietals, and I need to sell some shit before I die. So I'm going to plant Cabernet and Syrah.
And okay, here's a question for you. And maybe this is just an idea, not really. I'm not challenging you at all. Maybe this is just helpful thoughts. But I mean, what about going back to the old world way of naming by place, and that gives you that freedom of like, great, you know, somebody asks, you'd be like, yeah, there's cab in there, and that helps sell it. But there might be 10 other things, or there might it might not be, it might only be 49% cab, and there's some other crazy thing in there that does so much better, that but just doesn't have any name recognition. What if what about that as an idea for Bhutan?
Well, so the good thing about Bhutan is that there are no rules. And
Right.
I drafted the wine regulations for the country. They have yet to be ratified, but um, I can pretty much make the rules be whatever I want,
Yeah.
which is super interesting. It's like, well,
Yeah.
should we label by place? Should we label by grape? Should we just say anything goes? Um, and inevitably, the end game is that um, you get a consumer who has this product and has an experience with it, and that experience is magical to them. And I think you can get there by grape. I think you can get there by place. I think you can get there by and maybe because there's no rules, like maybe there's another way of thinking about this that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
And I think about this a lot. Like what what other methods could you use? Now, all that being said, then you step back and you go, all right, cool. Let's say you have a bottle of wine that has stuff in it from Bhutan. You need to get that into the hands of a consumer who will then have that experience. And what are they more likely to buy? You absolutely could say we're just going to do names, but then I've got, oh, this is a Limnatong wine versus a Yusupong wine, and people are like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Or you could say this is a Cabernet versus a Merlot, and we're like, oh, I recognize that. I like
Right.
Merlot. Oh, it's Bhutanese. I'm curious. I'll try that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that either one of those answers is the right answer, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think of it as like branding too. So if you think of like you're branding Bhutan, you're branding, you're creating. I would hate to pick any one brand, but let's say, the Dom Perignon of Bhutan. Like nobody cares what the grapes are in Dom Perignon. They just know it's Dom Perignon. Like,
Right.
you have that opportunity potentially, and that also, I mean, I think like Dom could start planting hybrids in their vineyards because Champagne can't grow Pinot anymore. You know what I
They
mean?
just
Like,
approved that one new hybrid for Champagne. Did you see that?
no, that's fantastic. I
Yeah,
did not realize that.
I can't. It's like I want to say Arnace, but it's obviously not Arnace, but it's something like that. They just approved within probably the last 6 months. They approved a hybrid for use in Champagne. I mean, climate
Wow.
change is fucking real. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
an issue.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, and I mean, that's one of my big arguments is just like we are seeing France do the thing. We in America have adopted these French grapes, and like you said, you painted such a great picture of how we're just like, okay, they're done, they're cooked. Take them out of the oven and never change them. While the place where they came from is actually changing, and that the having the branding of the name and the branding of the place or the branding of the brand gives them that freedom because they're not going to nobody's going to blink or even dig deeper than Dom Perignon. That's all they need to know. You know what I mean? So
right.
I would love the U.S. to head in that direction. I mean, I think like Napa could get in trouble, with a changing climate when Napa is like Baja. How's cab going to be? How's the quality of it going to be? Even if you can still grow it, is there going to be water to grow it first of all, and then like how's it going to taste even if there is water for it?
And how do you keep it from burning? I mean,
Right.
like
Yeah, that
I
too.
mean,
Right.
the smoke taint issue is a real issue. Voltis is
Voltis.
Voltis.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I knew it
Wow.
would come to me. This is what happens when you drink enough wine. Your memory lags. You know, four
How
minutes
recent is
behind you.
that?
Yeah, but I
Do you
mean,
know how
it's
recent that is?
so it's crazy because you're sitting there and imagine you're in my position where someone goes, okay, here's a country. It's 100%
I know.
organic, or it's on the road to 100% organic. It grows some of the best crops in the world. Um, we are awesome at growing shit. Um, what's the best wine that we can make from here?
Right.
And you're like, oh shit, I don't know. There's 10,000 varietals that you can grow in thousands of different methods, from, Kulara style trellising to pergola. You can prune them high yield. Like, I don't know. Um, and and so do you bet the farm? And by the way, I'm spending, decades of my life and significant amounts of my personal money on trying to figure this out.
Right.
um, you're gonna bet the farm on Cab and Syrah and Pinot and Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, but the wine geek in me is like, dude, you could create the next new grape haphazardly.
Right. Yeah, yeah, you've got that blank canvas. I mean, that
Mhm.
really is an awesome opportunity and responsibility. I mean, I, no pressure, Michael.
Yeah, no problem. So here's the way the pressure works. Step one: don't fuck up the local agricultural economy. Step
Right.
two: grow some bitchin' wine. Step three: have that bitchin' wine have a sense of place. And how great would it be? Like, imagine if you planted. I'm just making this up, but Petit Man sang next to Cabernet, and a bird shit out of seed, and it grew some new grape that was just phenomenal, that wasn't
Right.
recognized anywhere. It didn't have a name or anything. It wasn't a hybrid. It wasn't created in a lab. It was created organically, the way that literally every single wine grape in the world was created.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Now, the flip side is
Yeah.
what's the probability of that happening
Yeah.
versus me planting some Chardonnay and growing it?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, true. I mean, you pointed it out though. I mean, like planting from seed, I'm not saying you're betting the farm on that, but maybe that's the way to get to that indigenous variety. Or and it's not necessarily indigenous, obviously. Like yeah, I don't know that you would call it indigenous, but maybe that's the way you get to that thing that, maybe it's not going to happen in our lifetime, maybe, but you might get down that road a little bit. Not, and I wouldn't build a business plan around it, in your position, but I would,
hard, hard, hard,
but
hard
I
to
would
get
definitely
hard to get
be
a Series
planning from
E
seed
round
on the
investors to go on there.
right, right.
Some random Mother Gaia shit might happen, and we'll be successful. But yeah, truly, like, I think that there's that's where things get super interesting, from a wine
Yeah, that's
perspective.
amazing.
And
Is
imagine if
water in it? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. You said imagine if
No,
I
it
wanted
was
to get
like,
in on that
imagine
cab with you.
if the next generation of grapes, eventually Cab got invented, eventually got Pinot got invented, eventually Chardonnay got invented. What's the next thing that hasn't been invented,
Right.
or created? Not
Yeah.
invented, because invented implies sort of interventionist in a lab, but like something that nature said, "Holy shit, these things go together. This is going to be awesome."
Well, even
And right
wasn't.
now, the entire global wine economy and the regulations do not allow for that. It's
Yeah.
unfathomable that we, as a world, said, nope, we're done. Grape
Right.
evolution is over. That's it. We figured out what the best grapes are for making wine, and that's it. We're done. This is,
Uh.
fuck.
Yeah.
You're getting me on my
Very well
soapbox now.
said.
I'm just
It's
railing.
no, very well said. These are the. This is the. That's why I wanted to give you the megaphone. Thanks, man. It's for real. I'm right there with you, and I hope that it happens. I mean, I know. I mean, I'm planting vines from seed in my backyard to see what happens, and I know it's happening here and there
Wait,
around
wait,
in a
wait.
lot of
What are
different
you
ways.
planning from seed?
Well, so I mean, it's just like, the grape seeds all shoot up individual whatever. So what I've been doing is sort of mulching with the press leavings. So whatever's left in the press, the skins and seeds, I'm mulching with
Oh,
that,
interesting.
and around the trees. And so they're sprouting up. A few of them sprout up every year and shoot up into the trees, and it's just replicating a sort of what would happen in the wild if a bird shot out a grape seed next to a tree. And
Yeah,
I've
but at the same time, that's limiting a little bit because you're not doing clones, but essentially you're going to grow the same grape. Like
Well,
unless
genetically it's different. So like you might get, so it will be a mutation. So it will have a lot of similar characteristics to its parent, but but then what I'm going to do, is all of these are sort of in a vine jungle at the back of the yard, and then I'm going to start intentionally planting the seeds that come out rather than just scattering them around. So any grapes that grow, now they're in a situation where maybe they're cross pollinating. Who knows? Like, I don't know if that kind of mutation would happen where they become not hermaphroditic, but where they become sexed vines. But maybe they do. And then maybe we get a cross pollination. And then I plant a seed that is actually like the genetic mutation of a Zinfandel and a Chardonnay, and they crossed, in pollen, and now the grapes and the seeds from that are a further mutation, but a cross of those two, and now we've got something truly unique and potentially special, and potentially, that does well here in South
right,
Central.
right.
You know what I mean? Like that loves South Central.
Layer upon layer of risk dimensions, right? But
Yes, no, this is that what I'm saying is like this is something I would just do experimentally on the side. Like these, I definitely have like VSP trellised cloned vines on rootstock as well that we make wine from because we want to make wine and not just wait and see if grapes actually form even on these things from seed.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm in a similar situation where it's like there is, like we have a wine club that is like excited to try the wines that we make from our yard, so I have to make wine from our yard. But at the same time, I've reserved a corner of the yard that's my future corner. That's the like, who knows what will happen? Maybe nothing, but if it happens, it's going to be freaking awesome.
yeah, and
So yeah,
and I think that the way that we got to the wine industry today was completely haphazard, nature taking its course, right? So ideally, if you could create an environment that was just, as close to that as possible, and then just let it run rampant and see what the fuck happened.
right,
You'd have
right,
probably a lot of failures, but so what? You just need one success,
right,
and you're golden. And the question is how long are you prepared to wait? And
right.
it
Yeah,
could take 100 years.
yeah, absolutely.
But
No,
if it
that's the
did,
thing.
you might have the next thing. And
Yeah, yep. I mean, and also, I mean, it would be the next thing, but then you immediately are like, oh, do I just replicate the mistakes of the past, and now we clone this new thing as the thing, or do we start thinking about this as a process? Is this like actually we need to embed in our agriculture and our viticulture this idea of a process where we're always looking for the next thing, and there always is going to be a next thing because that process never ends, and so we've hedged our bets on that scale of that actually makes business sense then as well, where I don't know if that makes sense, but i'm just
no, I
i'm
mean,
just riffing here.
and this comes back to this whole thing about like on the wine business, we drew a line in the sand and we said, this is it. Evolution's done. And yet we haven't done that anywhere else in anything.
Right,
And then we set up a whole system of rules and regulations to support that.
right.
Um, and I mean, just imagine if you did that with people. Like everyone's tall enough. Like that's it. And then now we're gonna have
No,
regulations. You can only be this tall, and like if you're taller than this and you want to have sex with somebody else, you have to go file a form. And it's
right,
absurd.
right. Get a variance.
Yeah, you get
um
a get a variance, get an exception. We don't do that, and
yeah,
somehow we did it with wine, and it to me like the joy and the mystery of and the intrigue of wine is this fact that it's this unknowable, constantly changing thing, and then we came in and fucking reduced it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Is there room in the MW for what we're talking about, or is it? I mean, how stiff is it?
Well, I don't want to speak poorly about the MW program, but
Maybe I could
because
frame it
it's
differently.
amazing, it's led me to places I never thought I would go, and it's been just spectacular. However, I will say it is a little bit antiquated in the sense that um, it's more important to be able to describe the difference between Puligny Montrachet and Chassagne Montrachet
Uh,
than it is to think about 100 years from now, what is the next Puligny Montrachet?
mhm.
And part of that is probably like an economic decision in the sense that like you're coming up with an industry qualification that then I mean, imagine if you're, I don't know, I'm making this up, Pernod Ricard, and you hire an MW to help you with your business, and the person comes in and goes, you know what you should do? Try a bunch of weird shit, and 100 years from now, stuff's going to work out, you know? Uh, but what I would say is that the participants in the program, um, the folks who are doing this, are thinking about the same things that we're talking about right now.
Gotcha.
And I
So
mean,
the
I
program,
guess it's
yeah,
similar to like if you want to be a surgeon, you're going through the medical boards, but at the same time, you're saying, Eastern medicine's got some interesting points of view, but you're not being tested on that, and your salary is related to your ability to pass the boards, and so the last thing you're going to do is go to your boards and start talking about meditation.
right. Yep. Yep. Well, I mean, when I think about like this opportunity and responsibility that you have in Bhutan, I mean, first of all, it's just such a beautiful thing. I'm so glad that you get to share that with me and with the world. But also, I just want to offer you help, like, because it just sounds like you've got a burden, and I mean, I have a lot of compassion and empathy for being in your position. So if you need any help, let me know.
Dude,
um,
like I need all the help I can get. I would love nothing more than to have as many trained eyes looking at this thing and helping me be successful as humanly possible. I am not the smartest guy in the room. I'm a skateboard punk rock kid from Orange County. Like I didn't grow up in the vineyards of Burgundy. Like I need all the help I can get. I will absolutely take you up on that.
Awesome, for
As long
real.
as you're not saying Plant Norton and Limnaton.
I'm still gonna win you over on that. Uh, you're gonna get a
I
Christmas present or
I
something.
I am open to be convinced.
I'm not. I'm not sure that I would recommend trying any Norton from near where you are now, though. I grew up in Pennsylvania, and I can't speak to. Now there is good wine being made there. Yeah,
Well,
not a
so
lot.
it's funny you say that. So we've got 13 different varietals grown in Bhutan right now. 12 of them
Yes.
are international. One of them is Petit Mansang.
Uh
And
huh.
the reason that I planted Petit Mansang, two reasons. One, I love Juergens and Pascherang du Vigbal. They're spectacular wines. But more importantly, Bhutan has monsoon pressure in the summer, and Petit Mansang is super rain tolerant. So I was actually at an MW event in DC last weekend, and one of the people that was there runs a winery in Virginia. And she's like, oh, Virginia is making amazing Petit Mansang. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. And she's like, I swear to you, as an MW candidate, it's true. You have to come down and try. We do a still one, we do a sweet one, we do a demi sac. Come see what we're doing with Petit Mansang. It you will find it interesting. So that is now on my radar screen to go explore Virginia Petit Mansang um, to see, yeah, what's going on. Other than that,
Yeah.
I'm
No.
less excited about the East Coast wine scene, but I remain curious and convincible.
Well, check out the cider scene. The cider scene is
Fuck cider. I hate cider.
Ah! Oh no! Now I definitely have a mission for you.
I'll tell you. You know what cider's good for? Cider's
Tell me.
distilling and making Calvados. That's what cider's good for.
I've had some ciders that rival the best Grand Cru vintage champagne I've ever had.
So
For
it's
real.
funny. So one of the reasons I moved out here is I bought enough land to start a farm, and
Uh-huh.
I want to do some farming. And so one of the things I seriously am considering planting, and I've been here 9 days, right? So I haven't done shit yet, but I am seriously considering planting cider trees. But that's an
Yeah.
economic decision, not a passion decision.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, there. I mean, there's so many different styles of cider, obviously, and I'm definitely, obviously, not talking about what you would find in a typical bar, or in a 6 pack at the grocery store. But
No
if you
Angry Orchard.
exactly, I wasn't gonna name names, but definitely not. And but like I mean, if you get up around the Finger Lakes, there are people who are harvesting wild apples. So I mean, like, talk about space, place specific. And anybody listening who listens to the podcast regularly is sick of me talking about New York cider. I do almost as many cider episodes as grape episodes. And but it is just it is that vision that I'm sort of looking for in wine, which is like looking around, finding what thrives there, which is natural, which is growing wild, and then making the most of it, cultivating it, and honing it and treating it with the same seriousness that you would treat the best anything. And the stuff that's happening with those producers that are doing that it's magical.
Do
It's
you know
really,
Black
really beautiful
Diamond?
stuff. I do know Black Diamond. Yeah. I know
Yeah.
the
So
name. I haven't had anything by them.
okay, so I'll tell you a little cider story. So my viticulturalist, I think I mentioned, is a professor at Cornell. And
Uh-huh.
so I went to the Finger Lakes. I don't know, a couple years ago, to go just see what was going on up there. And he took me all over the place, and he took me to Black Diamond, and because that guy is a professor at Cornell as well, and so he's got, I don't know, 20 or 30 different varietals of cider. And we spent the entire afternoon at his place, and we walked through like tree by tree, like what was going on with the different varietals.
Right, right.
Um, and it was very clear to me that there was a lot of varietal influence, a lot of terroir influence, and then we drank a bunch of the different stuff that he made. And for the most part, I was like, okay, I can tell that this is well crafted, but it's not like necessarily a style I like. But he made this one like fortified cider that I ended up getting a case of it to take home, and it was
Interesting.
pretty
Was that
delicious.
a Pomo? Did he call it Pomo?
Yeah, Pomo. Yeah, like
Okay.
you know the words better than I do. Like my cider expertise is limited to one afternoon spent at Black Diamond. But yeah, Pomo is it's they fortify it, right?
Yeah,
It's like a high, yeah. It was
that's
like
right.
a
Yeah, yeah.
14,
It's
it was
essentially like
15% alcohol thing.
yeah, it's like the apple version of port, or any fortified wine,
Yeah.
essentially like that.
So
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily discarding the cider discussion, but here's my whole take on all this, which is that everything's an opportunity cost. Can I spend an afternoon sipping through 40 different ciders to find two that I like? Or can I spend an afternoon sipping through 40 different Burgundies, of which I'll like 30 of them?
Ah.
What's a better use of my
Okay.
limited time? So I tend to not get as far afield with some of that weird shit as I maybe could,
Well,
but
it
I
sounds like you
remain
just need
convincible.
some. Yeah, it just sounds like you need somebody to do some curating for
Yeah,
you, so
I
you're
think
not
that
wasting your time.
Adam, let's do it, man.
All
Let's
right.
curate it up. I'll roll up to South Central.
Awesome. Well, hopefully I'll be coming that way soon too. So, but yeah, Michael, there's so many things I would love to talk to you about, but you've really been generous with your time, and I really appreciate everything that you've shared. And I'm, honestly, it's an honor as well as a pleasure to talk with you. I mean, keep up all the stuff that you're doing, and thank you
You,
for doing this.
you know what's awesome is like when I first found out I was going to be on this podcast. I thought it was going to be just a knockdown, drag out bullshit fight about sulfites. And I'm like, all right, like, yeah, I'm your Huckleberry. I'll play that fucking game. But the ability to have the conversation at a higher strategic level was so much more than I was expecting and so much more amazing. So I love the fact that we were able to do this, and this was great. And I want to like come and hang out with you and do some drinking and like unpack some of these things not on air.
Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And if you did, please do leave a review for the Organic Wine Podcast. It helps a lot, and we want to get the word out to as many people as we can, which your review will help do. Thanks so much.